Welcome back to the Minty Mobile Games Podcast, Episode 3. I've been hyping up having a guest on the podcast for quite some time. I've procrastinated, but I've finally delivered, and mainly he's delivered, honestly. Your friend Jacob, who's a fellow YouTube creator, is here with me. Hello, Jacob.
Hello, Mint City and Mint City fans all around the world.
I wish.
I am so excited to be here. It has been a dream of mine to be on a podcast. This is the first time being on a podcast for me, and it couldn't be on a better podcast, the Minty Mobile Gaming Podcast. What's up, everybody?
You flatter me. Wow. Too kind, too kind. And you guys will see his kindness throughout this entire episode. But thank you again, Jacob, for doing this. And so just to introduce yourself to everybody, who are you?
Wow, so that is always a tough question, but let me
Yeah.
do the best I can here. So my name is Your Friend Jacob. You can just call me Jacob, or you can call me Your Friend Jacob, or whatever you want. Honestly, I'm sure I've been called worse, so it's all good. I am a mostly indie game focused content creator on YouTube, and I've been doing this for about 7 or 8-ish months, around there. I love indie games, and I mostly play indie games on PC, but I've been doing a lot more mobile gaming lately, and that is why I love Mint City's channel so much, and it's why I'm excited to talk some mobile gaming here today. It's really awesome.
Oh, see, and that is we were kind of discussing a little bit before we started recording, but that is why I've been excited for you to be on here, because you have an interesting perspective of delving into mobile games after having such a seasoned history of indie games on PC on the Master Races platform. And
Right.
so I've been excited to get some of your thoughts and see what some of your favorite games are and stuff like that. So I guess we can get right into it. So you said you've been making content for 7 blows my mind. I always forget how little time you've been making content, but what pushed you over the edge into actually creating YouTube content?
Okay, so this is a long story, so buckle up, everyone.
I'm ready. I have my
Here we
drink.
go. All right. So in 2016, I was in the best shape of my life. I was in grad school. I had 2 jobs, and I was winding down running my own independent record label. And so
Wow.
I was very busy and felt on top of the world. And then around November 2016, everything completely changed. My life changed forever. I became chronically ill and disabled. In the span of a couple of weeks, really, it happened so fast. I went from doing bodybuilder style training, working out a lot, and before I knew it, I couldn't get out of bed, and I couldn't play a game. I couldn't, lift a controller. Couldn't do anything like that. And I have been chronically ill and disabled ever since. Now, that plays into indie gaming in a way that has completely impacted my life in ways that I will never be able to give back. And that's kind of why I'm doing this channel. But to go back even further, gaming has always been a part of my life. So I remember playing a lot of Team Fortress 2. I remember in college, in undergrad, we had a classroom in the first floor of our dorm, and we would break into that classroom at night and we would stack up tables to hook up my Xbox 360 to the projector to play
Oh
Halo 3 all
man.
night.
Oh man, you are taking me back.
It was
Oh
just
my goodness.
it was such an amazing time. And order pizza, hang out, play Halo 3. It was great. And even before then, I'm a Nintendo kid. Grew up with the NES, skipped the SNES generation and didn't get that till later on, got an N64. And when I got the N64, I kind of feel like those kids that got the N64 and were like screaming, because that generation kind of defined gaming for me. And also I was a
Yeah.
kid I was one of those kids who camped out for a Nintendo Wii in the freezing cold, and I'll never forget it. Going to multiple places, camped out outside a Target.
I've
being
always wanted to do that, by the way. Like, that's such an experience that I don't know. Just being around people who are excited for the same thing in gaming, that must have been a blast.
Oh, it was amazing. Shout out to my friend Kyle. We were 2 of 6 people who got Wiis from that store. It was wild, a
The
wild time.
chosen few.
It felt like it was a Willy Wonka moment. Like, it w it was an experience I'll never be able to fully have again, I think, just because of the way
Things are set
like
up now. Yeah.
exactly,
You just get, like, a ticket in the line now and stuff, and
mhm.
it's just weird.
We had to camp out. It was freezing. We were unprepared because I believe I was 16 or 17 at the time.
Mhm.
And, we were 2 kids. We were idiots, we weren't prepared for camping out in the frigid, weather but we made it and we got Nintendo Wiis and then the Wii didn't have like an amazing launch window either in terms of
Yeah.
games. So like we're over there playing Excite Truck, Shout out to
Yeah.
Excite Truck, like not a bad
Desperate
game,
times call
but
for
it was
desperate measures.
right, it was like Excite Truck, Wii Sports, stuff like that. But Wii Bowling, classic, I'll take it.
The backwards compatibility with GameCube games is what sold me on the Wii.
Oh, it was amazing.
100%.
And I feel like almost everyone who had a launch Wii no longer has the door that covers the GameCube controller ports because
That's
that thing
so
was like
true.
it was the worst built component of the Wii. That door just snapped off, like doing nothing.
Like some brittle toffee, man. It just
Yeah.
breaks off so easy.
Yeah, and so gaming, has been a huge part of my life, and indie gaming was a part of my life before as well, with titles like Meat Boy and things like that. Fez, titles like that. But
The indie game movie, that's what I think of when I
oh
hear
yeah,
those 2
yeah,
games. Yeah.
absolutely that and Braid being in there as well.
Yeah.
Um, but as I was being sick, and still being sick, but at the worst part of being sick, for me, at my worst, I still loved gaming, but I couldn't play a game. I couldn't really look at a screen for too long. I couldn't lift a controller or play any games or anything for years. For years, I couldn't do that. So what I did instead was I would follow other creators. And through that, I would write down games that I wanted to play for later. And I still have notes files from writing it down in my phone and being like, I want to play this game. Um,
Wow.
and so I was just kind of following other creators. And then eventually I was able to work myself up through physical therapy, occupational therapy, and speech therapy, things like that. And started playing games again. And 2 games that I started playing uh, as soon as I could again were Stardew Valley
Ooh.
and interestingly enough, a game called Realm Royale. I don't know if you're
No
familiar with that.
way. The
Yeah,
battle royale by
yeah,
Hi-Rez.
that's
Yeah.
right. And Paladins was in there as well because I actually got to experience a little bit of really, really early Paladins
Before it
before
kinda
now.
went to crap, honestly.
Well, and now Paladins, interestingly enough, is starting to get pretty decent again.
Oh,
Like
did they turn it around?
they
Wow.
are now focusing on like performance issues and server stability and things like that. Now it's not bad. Before, like there were montage videos of just ridiculousness in
Yeah.
Paladins, like, and for a while there, it was a rough time. They had one update that was basically pay to win.
Mhm.
Um,
That's when I stopped playing was the pay to win update.
yeah,
But
they've
I
reverted
love
all of that, thankfully.
yeah, I
Um,
loved Paladins. I feel like a lot of people wrote it off as an Overwatch clone, and it definitely had some similarities, but it
right.
really had its own unique flavor that felt way different, in
I
my
I
opinion.
I've played both, and I honestly prefer it to Overwatch now because I like the loadout system. I like being
Yeah.
able to take a healer and make them a pseudo tank, or
Yeah.
take a DPS character and kind of have some heals, or a flank character, and
Mhm.
like Sky, who can heal other
Yeah.
characters with a specific loadout. Um, so shout out to Paladins and Realm Royale. High res, please come back to Realm
Yeah.
Royale. It still has over 1,000 concurrent players on Steam. It's ridiculous.
Wow,
They
I
they
did not
haven't
know that.
They haven't updated that game in years, and the
I see.
servers
I haven't checked
are
on that at
awful
all.
now. It's rough, but I put hundreds of hours into that game. And when I started playing those 2 games, my dexterity was so bad. This was how I had to play the game. So I used a mouse on my right hand, and on my left hand, I used a PS Move accessory controller. So it wasn't like the wand, the sort of like Wii ripoff wand thing with the ball
Oh,
at the
yeah,
end of
yeah,
it.
yeah.
It was the nunchuck equivalent.
Oh, so you
And
could just
then
hold the nunchuck in your hand
and
for movement.
that works on USB Mini. So I could plug it into a PC,
Oh,
and I used a program called Rewasd to map that to keyboard shortcuts essentially. And so that was how I was playing Stardew Valley and Realm Royale.
no way, man.
And, and
You
it
found a
wo-
way.
yeah, and it worked really well. Like I wish there were more buttons on that controller, but thankfully now I can use mouse and keyboard pretty well and use controllers really well, so I don't have to do that anymore. But for like a year or more, I had to do that particular way, and it worked great. I mean, I ended up getting really good at Realm Royale for a while there. We had a little squad, and we
That's
were
the key. Always having a squad in a battle royale makes it a completely different experience. A way better
we
one,
were taking down
honestly.
streamers. I mean, it was great. We would
Yeah.
take down streamers, and then we would go to their stream, and they would,
Be raging.
complain, or they would be super nice, on the flip side, and be like, "Hey, they got us," or whatever, and then we would just talk, and we would squat up with them and stuff. It was a cool
That's
time, and
awesome.
Realm Royale, people wrote it off as a Fortnite ripoff. It's
Not
not.
even close. Yeah, I
It's
never
not.
really played it myself, but it's fascinating to watch, like, their crafting system, their
Yeah.
forge system or whatever. It was very interesting, definitely different, and the chicken, the idea of being
Oh,
able
yeah.
to run off as a chicken, that's so cool, such a subtle change, but it
Yeah.
completely changes strategy. It's
They
crazy.
they did the forge and crafting system before all these other games did. And then, like, a lot
Yeah,
of battle royales adopted that to their games, like rezzing people. Like, Realm
yeah.
Royale did the rezzing thing
Did they
before.
do it before Apex?
Yeah, they did it before Apex did.
I did not know that
So you
because
could
I
res teammates in the
wow.
forge.
No way.
Yeah.
I
And
did not know
so
that.
so it to me, it's more of like, if you like Fortnite, but you hate the building, like, you're not a person who, you know I mean, because 'cause I've played Fortnite, you'll drop into a hot area, and then some kid will build, like, the Eiffel Tower in 2 seconds, right?
Yeah,
Like,
and edit
if
it down. He'll build the Eiffel Tower and
exactly.
then edit down the entire thing and then kill you.
And it's a work of art, but I can't keep up with it, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
if you're not feeling that part of Fortnite, then Realm Royale is totally good for you, but
Mhm.
it really is more like Paladins, but in a battle royale.
Yeah.
Um, in fact, it used to be called Paladins Battlegrounds.
Yeah,
That
and
was
then they made
the
it its own separate identity.
Right, and
Yeah.
so, High Res, if you're listening, please come back. I will play your game again if you come back and fix the servers and update some stuff. I would love it because I love Apex Legends and I love Realm Royale, and those are, like, the battle royales that I've gotten into so far for the most part.
Yeah. I'm
Um,
a Apex I'm a self-professed Apex Legends addict. So I'm with you on that. I think it's the best battle royale of all time. I
I
really like it.
I have held off for a while because I got a bit addicted to it, and
Yeah.
I was not playing other stuff for a bit, but now that I'm doing the content creation thing and incentivizing myself to play more games and things like that, I think I can
Mhm.
have a good balance. So maybe I might come out of retirement
You'll have to yeah, you'll
and
have to come out or we'll have to collab in game, you know what I'm saying? That sounds
oh,
like a plan.
that would be great. Honestly, I know you stream too, so
Yeah, every
um
so often. Yeah.
we can hop into a stream, and I'll play a bit of Apex. You'll carry me,
Yeah.
but it should be a
Yeah.
fun time.
By all means, it will be fun.
I've
And
seen
then
your highlights.
also oh, thank you, thank you. I just like, to post them. It's almost like just a little fun side project that I get sidetracked with
Mhm.
just to mix it up off of because obviously as a gamer, I'm not only playing mobile games, like, I play stuff on the side too, but my passion for content creation is with the mobile gaming side.
Right.
But I wanna ask you a question before we get off the topic of high res. How do you feel about Rogue Company? Because I love that game. I think it's very good.
I am kind of the opposite. Although I
It's not
played it,
everybody's cup of tea, that's for sure.
I played it in the beta. I got
Oh,
beta
okay.
access, and it just wasn't my thing. It
Mhm.
There are good things about it that I really like. Like, I think there are things that they've kind of, and a lot of the Realm Royale team is working on Rogue Company.
Oh, wow, I did not know that.
So a lot of the gunplay feels like the guns in Realm Royale, which is what I liked.
Mhm.
The movement kind of turned me off a little bit.
Yeah, it is a little awkward to get used to, that's for sure, and it always feels a little bit clunky for some reason.
Yeah. But I
Yeah.
will give them credit. Runs on 60 FPS on the Switch.
Very impressive. Their ports on Switch are just impressive in general. Like Paladins worked really well too. I don't
Yeah.
know if it was a solid 60, but I remember I was just blown away
Mhm.
with playing it on there too.
And
Yeah,
it has good gyro aim support, which I wish more games would have.
yeah, it's kind of a niche thing, but I think if more people tried it, it'd become the norm because the amount of accuracy it gives you is insane.
Yeah, I mean, shout out to there's a individual by the name of Jib Smart who does a lot of videos on gyro aiming and something called Flickstick. And if you ever see his videos, it will change the way you look at gyro aiming. It is a work of art, and he's done such a great job with that that an indie game that released last year called Boomerang X has native support for the kind of gyro settings that Jib Smart is known for.
No way.
Yeah,
Jib Smart, like GIB?
JIBB.
J, okay.
It also got added, I believe, to CS:GO ahead of the Steam Deck release. And it is
No way.
and what is it? Flickstick is native to Steam Input now. So,
Wow. Holy
yeah,
cow.
it's really cool.
Influential.
Yeah, and so I hope gyro aim continues to become more of a norm because I think it is a really good alternative to mouse and keyboard aiming, especially for people who don't like aiming with sticks as much or may have trouble doing that.
Yeah.
Um, and when you see games like Splatoon, I mean,
Oh,
people
yeah.
who are pros at Splatoon, I mean, they are just they're clicking heads, but it is gyro aim. It's so cool to
Yep.
see.
Especially with the Switch's joysticks. They're just so short and stubby. Like, if you're
Mhm.
just using it in handheld, you're screwed. Like, you have to use a controller. Like, those joysticks are not suitable for shooters, and the gyro aim makes up for that, I think.
That's right.
So,
And, so I know I've totally gone completely off
no,
the rails
that's
on
I like it.
on,
We're just following
yeah,
where it goes. I forgot we're
right.
recording for a second anyways.
No,
So,
it's great. So, anyway, how I got to indie games and content creation, um, Stardew Valley, like, had such a positive impact on my life where gaming, especially indie gaming, provided me a brief moment of escapism. So,
definitely.
through my chronic pain, my procedures, because I had several procedures, through uncertainty and depression, because I wasn't diagnosed right away. Um,
Yeah.
in fact, so to go over some of my health issues, I won't go over all of it because it's a laundry list, but I have a condition known as POTS or postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, which is a form of dysautonomia or an autonomic nervous system dysregulation. And I also have Lyme disease. And apparently I've had Lyme disease for several years and never knew about it. And POTS, it took like almost a year to get diagnosed with that, which is actually very short of a
Yeah,
time to get
very short
diagnosed.
in terms of that, yeah.
And then Lyme disease, I got diagnosed with in 2020. So,
Holy cow, I did not know it was that recent.
and
That's crazy.
apparently, I remember getting a tick bite in like 2015, right? So that's how long
So it just lied dormant in your system.
I
And
just, yeah, I had a little bit of symptoms here and there, but it never bothered me. And then I kind of had a perfect storm of illness, and then everything just kind of exploded in terms of symptoms and issues and pain. And then it took a while for me to get tested for it. And then when I got tested, it was like, yeah, you have it, you've had it, and you have multiple forms of it. So that was
man,
a huge sort of uh, mind blowing experience for me to get that diagnosis because we knew about the POTS, but we knew something else was going on. We couldn't figure out what it was, and finally we did. So, and for those of you who have Lyme or know about Lyme, if you find it quick, it is a lot easier to treat than when you've had it for a really long time. Because it's a microbial condition. It digs deep and multiplies and all of that kind of stuff. So, um, but anyway, gaming and indie gaming, especially Stardew Valley, provided me with escapism. I got to live out a life that had me start over in a way that is so fitting to Stardew Valley because it's basically what Stardew is, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's someone starting over and living out a what if scenario. And when you're chronically ill and you're kind of stuck, like I was bedbound and even when I was still playing games, I was bedbound still at the time. It provided me with this like what if scenario, like let me live out this sort of almost fantasy like scenario and kind of feel like I'm a part of a community again. And so going into town and talking to people and stuff seems like such a trivial thing to most people. But for somebody in a very isolating situation, it was euphoric to me. It was a way for me to be like, wow, I'm still a part of something. Because
Wow.
when you become chronically ill and chronically ill and disabled in my case, it's very isolating. I've been isolating before it was cool, you know what I mean? Like I've barely been out of my house much at all outside of going to doctors and stuff.
Yeah.
And for the last 5 years. And uh you become disconnected from community and sometimes even reality itself. And Stardew was a way for me to be a part of a community. Even if it wasn't a real community, it still felt kind of real to me. And
Yeah, it simulated it for you. It gave
exactly.
you a similar feel. Yeah.
And doing chores for people and farming and stuff. I was like, I feel like I'm accomplishing something still. Like it was really,
Yeah.
really nice. And I've put so many hours into Stardew. I can't even describe how much I've played that game. Um, and I've recently played it in co-op, and it's even better. It's even better in online co-op. So,
Man,
I'm
I feel
excited.
like any gaming experience is better, like co-op or as a social experience, even if it's just two people sitting on the couch, but one of them is playing. I just
Right.
love the social aspect of video games, and I appreciate you, by the way, sharing your health issues and what you've been through, because I feel like a marginalized group of people, especially when it comes to chronic illnesses and the like, are usually ignored by or at least pushed to the wayside or not acknowledged,
Oh,
especially in a lot of
100%.
different avenues. And I've always felt very strongly um, that they should be brought to the forefront. And I feel like people in your situation, as well as others, provide unique perceptions as well as insights that other people just can't wrap their heads around. Like you just described how you came to appreciate like indie games and content creation in a way no one else could. So I just think that's a very epic beginning to your story. It's just really cool, or at least your gaming content creation story. So I appreciate that a lot.
Oh, I appreciate you saying all of that because it's so true. I mean, I was very able-bodied and very, very healthy before all of this happened in 2016, and it's it is a tough transition being on the other side of it where, you're in a wheelchair and people won't speak to you. They won't look at you. And I'm able to, you know, answer for myself, right? But if somebody
Mm-hmm.
would be pushing me in a wheelchair, they would pretend I didn't exist. And so there were even in the times where I was around people, I wasn't. It was such a
Yeah,
disconnect. And so
which is almost even worse, I'd imagine, honestly.
oh, it was very tough. And
Yeah.
it so again, like Stardew kind of provided me with friends and a community of people to kind of to look at and communicate with and things like that. And a game like Celeste gave me something to work on. So it was really tough playing Celeste, especially at first when my dexterity wasn't so great, but I was able to roll credits and do the B sides, and that was like a
Wow, that's
huge
impressive.
accomplishment. And as someone who came from the NES playing a lot of Mario 1, 2, and 3, it was really fun to be able to play 2D platformers again, which for those of you who have seen my Indie Games of the Year video, you can tell I like 2D platformers a lot. That was not intentional, but it just so happened that a lot of really great 2D platformers came out last year. But
That's initially how I discovered your content, was a platforming indie video. I don't know which one it was,
right,
but like I'm a huge fan of platformers as well. That's what I kind of grew up on as well. And so I think that's how I discovered you.
yeah,
Wow.
and covering indie games came way later. Obviously, I mean, I started
Mhm.
around, I believe, July of last year is around when I started, or late June, I think it was.
Yeah.
Um, so those who I was following in the indie space, they were great. They have great channels, but a lot of their tastes were a little bit different from mine. So I was like, I think I could add to this conversation in a good way and amplify indie devs in a meaningful way as well. And I also wanted something to be my own occupational therapy because of the pandemic and because of healthcare issues. I had to stop doing occupational therapy. And I forgot to mention this, which I know it surprises people, but this is 100% true. At my worst, I couldn't speak. I didn't have the energy nor the capacity, especially lung capacity, to talk at all. And so I had to do speech therapy and occupational therapy, and then later physical therapy to help with that. And when
When
I wasn't able to do that anymore, I wanted something to continue to help me improve speaking because even after that, it's not like I was great at talking. I was just better at it. So I was like, maybe I should just dive into a YouTube channel and just kind of force myself to talk more and to talk with more inflection and projection. And hopefully that will help me speak better and breathe better. And it absolutely has. Like, I'm way better at talking now than I was in June. And so that helped me. And the other thing that I wanted to do was learn how to video edit. I have a friend of mine whose name is Nick, and he is a professional video editor. And I wanted to
convenient.
try, yeah, I wanted to try to find something to do that I could do at home because I'm still chronically ill and disabled. So I needed to find something that I could do that, when I'm able to work, full time and jump back into that, I need something that I can do from home or at the very least seated, because I can't stand due to the POTS. So Nick kind of pushed me ahead a little bit and was like, "Well, why don't you do something video editing wise? Like, I taught myself for the most part how to be a video editor, and now I'm doing commercials and stuff. So why don't you just do it?" So I downloaded DaVinci Resolve and just started doing that. And it's been great. And the last thing that I want to bring up for why I started to do content creation was I wanted to give back to the kinds of passionate and original games that left such a passionate impact, or a positive rather impact on my life. And including games like Stardew and Celeste and stuff, but the games that I continue to play because there are games that continue to have an impact on my life, well beyond at my worst of my chronic illness. And these devs work so hard. They take so much of their lives and time to craft these amazing original experiences. And I'm still blown away by anything. I mean, it is magic getting a game finished, let alone out there. I mean,
Oh, it's a miracle. It's a mini miracle, honestly.
yeah, I couldn't imagine doing that. I mean, I make videos on YouTube. That's already hard enough for me. To be able to program and put together an indie game with like a shoestring budget, if that, and
Yep.
put it out to the masses and with no shield, no parachute, you're just vulnerable to everyone's criticism and they could take your life's work and just eviscerate it. And
Yep.
so and people doing that I have the utmost respect for those developers, and I wanted to give back by highlighting. And I've made some amazing connections along the way, and it really has kind of pulled me out of my isolation. Like meeting you and speaking with you, you had mentioned that you consider this a friendship, which is really great because that's also how I consider it. And it'd be really awkward if you said
Yeah.
on the last podcast that it wasn't that.
Just
'Cause
a very an acquaintance.
it would be like hearing the one you want to ask out to prom talk about
Yeah,
how they hope someone else asks them,
that
and
is a great analogy.
you're around the corner in the hallway just defeated. Um,
A
so
Hallmark movie moment right there. That's
exactly.
so
So
funny.
yeah, but I totally consider this a friendship, and I've met
Awesome.
some wonderful developers who I consider great friends of mine as well, and I've done that really like on my own, which feels so rewarding because I didn't put like money into this. I have a very cheap basic microphone. I use all free software. I am not
Right
part
there
of
with you.
any channel orgs or anything like that. I just reach out and fly by the seat of my pants. I have no idea what I'm doing and I'm just throwing stuff together and it's working somehow and it's super rewarding and we're at 411 subscribers now, which you had mentioned when you had first saw the channel. I had just passed 100, and let me tell you, I was flying when I hit 100. I
Yeah.
thought it would never happen. It was like because I was at like 50 forever. And I'm still blown away that people find my channel just organically and they're like, "Hey, this is great. I'm going to subscribe and leave a lovely comment and share this with a friend or something." And I'm just like, "Really?" Like, okay. I mean, that's amazing. I'm super grateful for that, but you're in your own bubble when you make content. I mean, you know this just as well as I do,
Oh,
even more so because
100%.
you've been doing this longer than I have. You're in a bubble. You have no idea if what you're doing is going to be relatable or
Yeah.
good at all. And then when it is, it's surprising because you don't have that feedback beforehand. Like,
Yeah, you can strategize as much as you want when it comes to YouTube and content creation, and like you can take as much advice from so many different types of people and avenues. And at the end of the day, you still have to just shoot something out there, and maybe it doesn't work. Like
mhm,
YouTube's algorithm and just so many different layers of things that are contributing to YouTube being unpredictable almost. Like you can predict a few things, but like you said, it's just a learning experience no matter how long you've been doing it. Like
mhm.
you said it best, flying by the seat of your pants. Like you're just you're just winging it. You're just trying whatever you think would be best, and that's literally all you can do, honestly,
Yep.
and see what sticks.
And you're gonna have successes and you're gonna have failures. You're gonna fall on your face. And it's a wild ride. It's been super fun. I mean, we were talking before the podcast. I had a video hit 13,000 views and
So
it
cool.
shocked me. It shocked me. I was not prepared for that to happen. And then I've had other videos that I'm like, you know, I think this might be the one. And then it goes nowhere, right? And
Yeah.
it's still fun. I mean, even videos that don't do as well as you expect, they're still super fun. I mean, I've learned video editing and I didn't know how to do that before. I have learned pacing and um kind of scripting out content and stuff like that.
You even mentioned
And
like the reflections of your voice and stuff. Like I feel like that's where your quality lies, is that you're paying attention to details that are so intricate, such as that. Like the way you're bending your voice to emphasize a certain part of the video and stuff like that. I guarantee you that's not something everyone does. Like, and it shows. It's pretty crazy.
yeah, I mean, I really appreciate that, and it's something that I try to pay attention to as much as I can. One, because I want it to be very accessible and digestible, content wise, And the other thing is I am deeply afraid of pronouncing words wrong. And if I over try, if I overexert myself with inflection, then I will hopefully make less mistakes. But to peel back the curtain, as we spoke before the podcast, and for everyone tuning in, if you think that either one of us, or really any creator, just nails it with the recording or putting together a video, it is not that at all. It is a series of failures and frustration, and for me, it's getting the simplest of words wrong and, like, cursing at myself, and then somehow it turns into a cool video. So, that's kind of how YouTube works in a weird way.
Oh, 100%. And I record my just a little fun fact on that subject. I record my voice through voice memos on my phone. And so I will record something and it's like I'll say I'm making a review. I record everything and then I'm obviously deleting the takes that are bad. And by the end of a review, I'll have hundreds of deleted voice memos. It's just nuts how many times it adds up. It's crazy.
Well, and I didn't know that, the voice memos thing, and that
I
is
do everything from my phone. Like literally every video you've ever seen is from my phone.
that just
I do
it
everything
makes
on it.
me just respect your channel and love your channel even more, because the quality of your voice and sounds and everything, like, when I first started watching your channel, I was just like, I loved the flow. I loved how, like, quick and digestible everything was, and it definitely inspired me a little bit. I think a few of my videos more recently, they are a little bit shorter, and part of it was because I was like, a lot of the stuff I have in there, I don't actually need it. Like, the way that you're able to flow from point to point, and your delivery, and our deliveries are very different, but it's still inspired kind of how I set myself up a little bit, and the quality is so good, and it led me to going, "You know what? I need to be a little bit more digestible. I need to, make my content a little bit quicker, a little bit shorter, and but still pack it with information." And I think that's, like, so hard. There are not a lot of YouTube channels out there that pack a ton of information into a short period of time, and your channel is one of those where
Oh,
I can watch a review and be like, I know exactly what I'm getting into. It doesn't matter how long the video is, and it doesn't matter what it's about. I can check one of your videos and go, like, I can definitively basically say at this point, I'll know if I like it. Like, because
that's very surreal to hear, honestly.
you've given me enough information. And sometimes you'll see a review that's either 40 minutes long, or a review that's like, 2 seconds long basically, and you're like, I still don't really know, because the 40-second long or the 40-minute long video will be like this dissertation on, like, the history of a game or whatever, and that's, like, awesome, but that doesn't necessarily lead me to know if I actually, like, wanna play it or not. Um,
Exactly. Like, I
but
feel like there's a small percentage of people who listen who really enjoy the long form content with like every single detail in there. But I think that's the by far the minority. And let's face it, we as humans, science has proven over and over again through longitudinal studies that our attention spans are a lot shorter than we tend to think they are. And so I think that skill of being able to pack, like, that's always been my main focus for my channel. So that was very cool to hear, because I've never told anybody this, but like one of the main focus with my content is packing that info into as short of a video as possible to respect the viewer's time. And hopefully they could recognize that, especially when it comes to mobile gaming too, because mobile gaming's already one of those things that people have shorter attention spans for. They have a shorter amount of time to enjoy mobile games in general. And so I wanted my content to kind of reflect that and kind of go parallel to that, and keeping everything short and concise. That's like the two words that I've always kept in mind: short and concise. So
well,
I
I mean,
appreciate that.
oh, no problem, and as a big example here, you're the reason that I played Jump Jerboa, right? That review made me go, yeah, I need to pick this up immediately. And I'm sure we'll
That's a perfect segue. I think we
yeah,
should just go with that. So,
yeah.
Jump Jerboa is one of the indie games that you've enjoyed. What do you like about it?
It is just so easy to pick up and play. It is a one-button platformer, but it still has a ton of depth. The art style is simple, but it is pleasing. The soundtrack is good, and you play one level, and then time goes by, and you've played a ton of levels.
You're in limbo. You're in a time warp.
Right, and now it's to the point I cannot wait for new levels to be added.
Oh,
Um,
same. I feel bad
I
for the dev because I'm just so everyone's so anticipatory for it. like,
That's right.
yeah.
And
Wow.
it's just so simple to just pick up my phone and play it. And that's what I love about mobile gaming is the pick up and play nature of it. It's just something that isn't really matched. Like on the console side of things, there's like quick resume and stuff that's starting to pop up. But
Yeah.
with mobile gaming, they have it nailed where it is just pick up and play. And I love that.
Yeah. It's like very bingeable. Like when you think of Jump Jerboa, like you said, like you play one level and you complete it because they're not very long. Like the difficulty, if you're a completionist, you can spend a couple minutes on a level to really perfect it. But
Mhm.
other than that, like it's so bingeable. It reminds me of like a Netflix TV show that you really enjoy. It's just there's one level. Okay, I really want to play the next level and see what new concept or what new mechanic they're going to throw into the mix. Like because it just constantly adds something new. It just
Oh,
keeps
and
things
that
fresh.
I'm so glad you brought that up because I would be remiss if I didn't mention that. It introduces new concepts very, very well. It doesn't throw too much at you. It's a gradual introduction to different ways to use one button platforming to do new things. And when games nail that gradual introduction, I mean, I will play it all the time. It doesn't really matter what genre it is or anything like that. When games nail it, it's evergreen. It is an evergreen game for me. And on the flip side, when they don't, it is like almost an immediate turnoff.
100%. Very well said. Very poetic. I think that's something that's been lost in modern gaming as of late, especially in the mobile gaming space. You'll just see these hand holding tutorials introducing new mechanics that literally last for like 15, 20 minutes of where
Mhm.
you can't do anything but click where they want you to click. But with Jump Jerboa, it just like literally sets you on your way, and the level design itself is just like, oh, you can figure it out on your own, and it's like the self discovery that keeps you motivated. So very well said.
100%.
Yeah. Are there any others other than Jump Jerboa that you've enjoyed that are on mobile that you have eaten up your time?
Oh, lucky for you, I got a list going on here.
All
So
right.
let's jump into some of my picks. I won't do too many. I got about four that I will try and go through as quickly as possible.
Perfect.
So you had mentioned that you use your community tab for deals.
Hmm.
And I am one of those lucky recipients of your sage advice and wisdom. And both my partner and I picked up SpongeBob Battle for Bikini Bottom. And my simplest review of it is a port for which any port should be based off of in terms of
100%.
quality. It is the measuring stick that if you do not match, then I'm going to be sad because it is so good. And interestingly enough, this is how I played SpongeBob. I have it on my phone. It is a older Android phone, but it does have USB-C to HDMI support.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay.
I went to my brother's apartment and I plugged it into his TV and I played several hours of it and had a blast.
That's awesome.
And my partner has the PC version, and she's played a bunch of that, but got it again for the iPad so she can play it with her nieces and nephew. And quality wise, even on my older Android phone, it is like up there with the PC version, depending on what graphics settings you use. Like,
Yeah, it's surprisingly optimized, especially for such a big name game by a big name company. I was very impressed.
and I turned the graphics down, but not all the way to low, and it ran almost a locked 60. And my phone
Wow.
again is like a almost 4-year-old phone at this point.
Yeah.
and it
That's
ran
impressive.
yeah, it ran close to 60 FPS. Graphics looked great, and I'm a 3D platformer fanatic, so I knew I was gonna like it, and I really do. And I hope that more ports like that come to mobile and more 3D platformers come to mobile because clearly this game has proven that it can work. Now, there are already some pretty good 3D platformers out there on mobile, but I just want to see more because I can't get enough 3D platformers because I love them so much. So, if you are out there and thinking about putting a 3D platformer on mobile, do it.
For real. Like they are very few and far between. Like the only other 3D platformer that really comes to mind to me of like a high quality where it just comes off the top of my head is Suzy Cube. Have you ever played Suzy Cube?
So I was about to say Suzy Cube. That was the one I was thinking about when I was going through when I was saying other great 3D platformers. Yeah, Suzy
Hmm.
Cube is definitely the one I was thinking about.
Yeah, that was kind of that way more inspired by Super Mario 64, but that's a really good one. Very simple but good.
Mhm.
But yeah, but like the SpongeBob Battle for Bikini Bottom, 99 cents. You can't even get a drink nowadays for that much. Like the amount of bang for your buck there is nuts.
Hey, the dollar store is a $1.25 store now, so 99 cents is a
I
great
heard
deal.
that. That's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
I was
So
like, what? Why can't we leave certain things untouched? Aren't certain things sacred enough?
so that means that SpongeBob Battle for Bikini Bottom too cheap for Dollar Tree. So it's one of the
Now
best
that
deals
is
in
a
gaming.
quotable. I'm gonna go edit my community post now and just put that quote right there. That's too good.
Oh yeah.
Uh,
So in jumping into my next one, here's one that I've just started. So I can't give like a definitive yes or no on it yet, but I started playing Retro Bowl.
oh
Um,
yes, that's a great another 99 cent gem.
and
So good.
so some people were like, "Yeah, it's Tecmo Bowl for mobile." It's not really Tecmo Bowl for mobile. It has a lot of other things going for it that separate it enough from a
Way more
Tecmo Bowl.
management, right? Like way more management
Exactly.
aspects. Yeah.
So it is more a football manager than I had expected. And there's other differences. Like, for example, you play as the quarterback. You don't move, but you aim the throws, and you run the plays. You can do audibles and stuff like that. And you do extra point conversions, whether it be 1 point or 2 points. You don't play defense at all, and you don't do kick returns. Those show up via text bubbles, and
Yeah.
they're effective and they're nice. But what I would love to have happen to that game moving forward is I would actually like it to play out on more of an X's and O's grid style to show me the plays that are being run and happening. So the immersion would be a little bit increased, I think, than having text boxes.
Yeah,
Um,
I totally agree with that.
it kind of reminds me of if you want to watch a football game or basketball game. I'm a huge basketball fan. So if there's a game that I can't watch, I will pull up a website that will have the scoreboard and kind of like roughly show what the plays are and where the players are at.
Yeah, yeah.
And I kind of would love Retro Bowl's defense to run like that.
That's a
Um,
brilliant have you shot the dev that idea?
I have not, but I think I'm going to.
He's very active on Twitter. I would
Mhm.
do that. I That is a genius idea, honestly.
And yeah, I think the immersion would be a lot better than just having a text box be like X running back ran for 10 yards or whatever. Because it just kind of like pulls the momentum down.
Yeah,
Um,
and the management aspect, like it's the play drawn up X's and O's, like it's
mhm,
the visual
yeah.
feedback. So,
But I am harping on one aspect of the game, but it's still actually it's really good.
oh
It's
yeah,
still a really good game. I like the management aspects because it's slimmed down. It's not like you have to manage every single player and every staff member and things like that. The draft is only 3 rounds instead of like 7 years, like an NFL draft is.
yeah, yeah.
Um, it's very I use the word digestible a lot, but it is very digestible in that regard. And offensively, the game is really fun. I also really like the soundtrack.
Oh yeah,
And
that's what really stood out to me. There's a lot of like it's in the name, retro.
Mhm.
Like it has that retro inspired soundtrack that really hits. I like it a lot.
uh So that's Retro Bowl for me. Next up, I just finished Leo's Fortune, a classic.
Ooh, an absolute classic on all of the iPhones back in the day.
That's
Just
right.
preloaded at the store at Best Buy. So
And honestly, it is a marvel that it is basically a mobile-only 2D platformer.
yeah,
And after all these years, I still think it's one of the prettiest games on mobile.
one
I
of
mean,
the unique art
it's
style all the
yeah,
way.
it's stunning. I mean, the some of the set pieces and backdrops, especially in the later levels, just are so detailed and so great in terms of visual fidelity. I was really happy with it. It is for those that don't know, it is a momentum based 2D platformer with a lot of puzzle solving elements. And if I were to compare it to a 2D platformer, it doesn't necessarily play like any other 2D platformer, but it's probably the closest to like Rayman.
100%. I was about to suggest Rayman. Yeah.
And not just in visual fidelity, but even the way it plays reminds me a bit of Rayman, and I love Rayman, so I ended up loving this. The story is totally fine. All you need to know is it's about gold and a fortune, and you're Leo. And if you know that, you're gonna probably get through the story without any problems. I did like the ending. I thought that
Mhm.
was a high point of the story. Um, but it's the puzzle solving and the platforming, and you may need to get used to the floatiness of it. It is very floaty, the
Mhm.
platforming, but
Yeah, it feels a little bit awkward, honestly, right at the start. But
mhm,
then it's just like you learn to make that the new normal for you, if that
right.
makes sense.
And so you
Yeah.
get a few levels in, and then it all kind of clicks. And there are so many mechanics, whether it's in the
Oh,
puzzle solving or in the floating or in puffing yourself up so you don't fall in
yeah.
between different hazards and stuff. And the physics in it is really great. Um, it's really good on touchscreen or controller. I played 99% of it on controller, but I wanted to test it on touchscreen ahead of this podcast, and it plays great on touchscreen. Play it. I
That's
mean,
interesting because I played it exclusively on touchscreen. So,
mhm.
yeah, I'd be interested to know how different was it? Was it similar at all on touchscreen compared to controller? Did you feel like the physics felt any different because you're on a touchscreen instead of actual physical buttons
So
or anything?
the floatiness of Leo's Fortune helps with that.
Okay,
I
gotcha.
actually think it's a good design choice
Hmm.
because I was able to adjust a lot better because it is a little bit more forgiving.
It's
It's not necessarily
Kirby-ish in my way,
right.
in my
It's not
opinion. Yeah.
really a precision platformer. I mean, the last like couple levels are a bit spicy, but it's not punishing in terms of its platforming. And I was able to play both relatively well, and I don't play a lot of games on touchscreen. So I have to give credit to the devs on Leo's Fortune because it plays great. It's also, I believe it's part of Apple Arcade now.
Yes, yes, it is, and I'm surprised they haven't made a sequel to go
Me
along
too.
with it at this point. Because see, this is the perspective I wanted because you just brought up a classic that never gets mentioned anymore. Like, people who are new to mobile gaming, like, right now, they wouldn't know it exists because no one talks about it anymore. People just assume, and so it's really cool that you literally pulled that out of the depths of my mind. I haven't played Leo's Fortune in forever, and so what a great suggestion, honestly.
Yeah, I think it's a must play for any 2D platformer fan on mobile. Play it, and if you're watching Leo's Fortune developers or listening in, port it to other stuff. Do it.
Yeah.
Put it on
Yeah.
Switch. It'll do really great. Like I'm surprised it's not everywhere because I really think it's that good. It's not really like anything else. I mean, like I said, the
Mhm.
closest thing is Rayman, but even then, that's a very loose comparison. And so I think it can stand on its own, and I recommend it to just about everybody. Just give yourself time to get used to the floatiness, and you're going to be rewarded with a really awesome game.
100%. Great
And then
suggestion.
and then I left the best for last here
Oh.
because I have been waiting to be on a podcast or anywhere to talk about Slice and Dice. It is so good. Okay, before I get into talking about what Slice and Dice is, let me hype it up for a bit. I love Dicey Dungeons. It is one of my favorite card-based deck builder. It's really a dice-based deck builder, but there's some cards in there.
Yeah.
Loose deck builder with roguelite elements. It's my favorite Terry Kavanagh game. The soundtrack by Chipsol is amazing. And I've been looking for a roguelite or roguelike to really sink dozens of hours into because I put about 60 hours into Dicey Dungeons. So I've been looking for that. And Slice and Dice has scratched that itch for me in terms of a dice based sort of deck builder esque roguelite. And it is on Android and PC right now. And I am so sorry. I know you are on the Apple side of things,
Yeah.
but you have Dicey Elementalist, so it is not a lost cause here.
Yeah.
I think eventually we'll be able to enjoy the games that we cannot enjoy.
Yeah.
And
Because they
also,
mentioned something that it's eventually coming to iOS, right? Or they're looking
yes.
into it.
So the
Okay.
developer has mentioned that they want it to be on iOS. So
Okay, good.
I'm assuming they're working on that now, and hopefully it'll be there sooner rather than later. But
Uh-huh.
before I forget, I want to mention this. For those of you who are interested in Slice and Dice, I recommend buying it on itch.io or itch.io. If you're not familiar with that, it's an indie-focused storefront that allows you to set the amount that goes to itch and the amount that goes to the developer or publisher,
That's
which is
brilliant.
super cool. It is super cool.
Yeah.
It's like if anyone's familiar with Bandcamp, it's like
Yeah.
it's like Bandcamp for indie games. I love it. And what's awesome about it is you get DRM free versions of the PC game, but you also get any other version they want to throw in. And so with Slice and Dice, you get the PC version and you get the Android version for the price of one.
And eventually the iOS version when it actually comes out.
I would think so. I
Yeah.
believe it's also capable with macOS, the PC version for those who have macOS.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So, and I want to mention this that Android games are coming to Windows 11. So, for people that
Whoa, I did not
have
know that.
yeah, so for people, and this should be pretty good. Do you have a Windows PC?
Yes, yes, I do.
So this is going to be a game changer for you.
Oh, I'll finally be able to get my hands on the Android side of things because there's so
So
many things on the Android is still the Wild West. Like
yes,
there is crazy stuff that you can't get anywhere else.
yeah. So in a few markets, they have already rolled this out where you can run Android apps in Windows 11,
That's
and it
amazing.
it eventually is going to be rolled out worldwide. And originally, it was going to be through the Amazon store, which people were bummed out about. But now it looks like Google Play is either going to be on by default, or you'll be able to just have it on there with like one click. So,
Oh, that's
um,
much better.
so as somebody who covers mobile gaming, you'll be able to just run the Android games in your PC. So that
See,
should be
and
pretty
that is
sweet.
wow, that is priceless information. I had no idea because I'm pretty ignorant to the Android side of things. I used to have an Android tablet back in the day,
Mhm.
and then I got rid of it. But because I just honestly enjoyed the iOS. Like I'm sucked into the iOS side. You know how Apple is; they kind of monopolize you, and then
Yeah.
the sunken cost fallacy of leaving is just too high. But I've really because a majority of people own an Android. Apple's still in the minority, in my opinion, and so a lot of people will comment like certain games underneath my videos or ask about like, oh, is this available on Android? I'm like, I can't really like I can search on the internet for you, but or I don't know how it performs on Android, like to a degree, because certain hitches and hiccups might be on the Android version than the iOS. So that'll be really useful. I will definitely look into that, 100%.
Oh yeah, it's going to be great, and it might actually force me to get Windows 11 because I'm still riding with Windows 10.
You are a smart man.
Yeah,
It's
but
always safe to stay on the predecessor, in my
well,
opinion.
I mean, it's being supported until 2025, and I might have to ride with it until then because I was a team Windows XP for like as long as I possibly could.
Yeah.
So I'll probably roll with Windows 10 for a long time. But back to Slice and Dice. So Slice and Dice is a dice-based roguelike where you are given a party of 5 different players that you control all of them. You get an attack-based party member. You get kind of a utility member who's both attack and shielding to start. You get a defense character, a healing character, and a mana and energy kind of character. Each have their own dice and each have their own associative sides to their die that are related to their particular class. And you will go through a series of battles. There's 20 in total per each run. And with each turn, you will roll your dice, and based on what they roll on, you have 1 or 2 re-rolls that you can use if you'd like. And whatever side they're on, that will be associated with a certain number of damage or healing, or defense or mana or things like that. And you will be battling another team. If you win the battle, not only do you go on to the next battle, but you are given a series of scenarios, and they're at random. So one scenario could be that you could upgrade a particular character, or really, more appropriately, trade them out for a different kind of character. So, for example, I could take my healing character and trade them out for what's called an herbalist. And so they have a lot of poison attacks and growth defense. And growth is every time you use it, the next time you use it, it's a value of 1 more.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, every character has health points. And so that's how the points are kind of added or taken away through battle.
Okay.
And so as the end of the battles are occurring, you might get a scenario like that. You might also get a scenario where you're given items or abilities that you can tack on to a particular character of your choosing. Each character has 2 slots for abilities or items, and these could be increase your health by 3 points, or self shield at the beginning of every turn, or replace all of your blanks with mana. And the way mana works is you can store a certain amount of mana per each turn, and you can trade that mana in for certain attacks or healing abilities. And that kind of mixes up the gameplay from turn to turn. And as these scenarios continue on, you'll upgrade or trade out more characters and get more items. And the party members and the different characters you can have are wildly different from each other. So the way you start is not going to be how you finish. And
Whew.
the
This
battles,
sounds right up my alley, to be completely
right?
honest.
The battles are super engaging. They're relatively quick. There are mini bosses and boss battles that will wreck you if you're not careful. And there's a lot of item synergies that will help from one character to another. So you could get a side of your dice that will allow one other character to reuse that side or their attack over again. So there's a lot of different synergies like that you can play around with. And I've completed a bunch of runs. I've played dozens of hours, almost exclusively on my phone. By the way, for Android users, there is a free demo that I believe allows you to play on easy mode. So there is no reason not to try it, in my opinion. The graphics are simple but effective, and I really like them. I would love to mention this as a big accessibility fan. There is fully scalable UI. So there are options where you can enlarge and shrink the tiles that show you your different characters' information. And that is huge for me because I struggle to see smaller fonts. And so
Mm-hmm.
having scalable UI is a must for me, and I think every game should have it. But this game does. So if you're worried about not being able to read stuff because maybe you've played deck builders before and it hasn't had that, and you're just squinting trying to read information, Slice and Dice is not anything to worry about because you can scale that UI. And so
That's
there,
another detail, by the way, that like a lot of, like you said, it's like a quality of life improvement that is priceless. Like more games need to have the scalable UI, especially on mobile. It's such an issue. Like you will have a brilliant port. A game that comes to mind is what is it called? I can't think of the name of it right now, but it was a brilliant port of a game on other. Why can't I think of it? It's one of the games I reviewed. I'm having a total brain fart. But it was a brilliant port, and it was on PC originally, but the font size was not scaled to the mobile screen, and it was such an issue. Like it was the one thing. It was the one little thorn amongst all of the roses. And so that's really cool that you mentioned that.
Yeah, it's a big thing on from what I understand for Switch games. That's a big problem. And it's also something that Valve is trying to get ahead of in lieu of the Steam Deck launch, which by the way, Steam Deck looks amazing. If anybody out there wants to buy me one, I'll give you my information because I cannot afford it. But yeah, so hopefully that will force more PC games to have more scalable UI and better accessibility functionality. So then when those are ported over to mobile, that will carry over. My fingers are crossed that will lead to better accessibility. And we have a long way to go, but we have improved quite a bit in terms of accessibility over the years, and I'm pretty hopeful for it. And but with Slice and Dice, to kind of wrap things up with that, it is the most fun I've had with a roguelite or roguelike since Dicey Dungeons. It is a must play. It is probably one of, if not my favorite mobile game of all time now.
Woo!
And I think everybody should give it a shot. It's free on Android as a demo, but again, if you go on itch.io, so itch.io, you can buy the game. You get the Android version as a downloadable APK that you just put on your phone and you can run it and everything's good. And for the price of just one copy. So you get the PC version, you get the Android version, and you can decide because you know how a lot of storefronts either have a 30%
take a percentage cut.
Yeah, something like that.
And they're pretty aggressive most of the time, honestly.
They are. So Steam is 30%, consoles are 30%, I think. Epic is 12%, and Android has just recently changed, so I think it's like 15% if it's like under a million.
I think it was originally 30, right?
Yeah.
I think that's the same with Apple as well. Or maybe Apple was even more.
Yeah.
Just after all those legal proceedings, I don't know what the percentage came to.
That's right. And but with itch.io, you could say, I want to send 100% of my money to the developer. Or you can say, well, let me give 5% to itch to keep their servers up or something like that. And you can decide how much. And you also can decide to pay more money if you want. If you're like, this game should be $10, not $7 or whatever it is, right? Okay, send the developer $10. Go ahead and do it because
that's cool.
It allows you to do that. So I love itch.io. PC versions are DRM free, so you don't have to worry about a launcher, which is great because there's 700 launchers now. And there's going to be more. So if you don't like launchers, you can run it as just a DRM free .exe file, which means you can also add it to Steam as a non-Steam game. So if you're tied to the Steam ecosystem, you can add it to Steam.
As many of us are.
Yeah, I think you can add it to GOG as well for those that use that. And it is the best way to get games if that game is on there. And most indie games are. So I would totally recommend, if you're going to buy the game, get it on itch.io because you get 2 versions of the game for the price of one, and then more money goes to the dev. So shout out to Slice and Dice. It is that good. I really don't think I'm overhyping it. And another interesting thing about it, and this is, I think, maybe polarizing, there is no music in the game. So
that was an interesting point that you made when we were talking about it earlier.
And so I thought that would be kind of empty. But honestly, it has made it so much more relaxing. I can put on a podcast. I can have TV in the background. If my partner's watching a movie or something and I'm not into it, I can just pull up Slice and Dice and play, and I have a little bit of sound effects for the dice rolls, the attacks, and things like that. But it's not super distracting, and I actually think it's a good setup not having music in it, and it changed my opinion because going into it, I was like, this is kind of weird. But now thinking about it, it really is the perfect like I play it a lot before I go to sleep. Like
Oh, yeah.
it's the perfect just wind down before you go into bed or when you're in bed and can't fall asleep. Just like, all right, let me get a run through. Like let's and oh, I almost buried the lead here. It auto saves at the end of every battle.
No way. What a
So
quality of life everywhere. Let's go.
So if you don't want to go through all 20 battles, if you're waiting for a bus or train or whatever, and you just want to get through a quick battle, you can exit as long as the battle has ended and you can close the game, come back to it, and it'll say at the bottom, you can start a new game on one of any kind of difficulty or different mode, or you can continue on at level whatever, and just right then and there, it just drops you right in and you keep going. So I love that because sometimes I don't have enough time for 20 battles, and it's just amazing. I can't praise it enough. Play Slice and Dice.
Oh, now I seriously can't wait because it's kind of been on my radar a little bit, and then I'm really weird. I will wait till Kingdom Come for it to come to mobile if I know there's a chance of it, or if devs say that it is. So I'm gonna wait until at least it comes to mobile, and then I'm gonna give it a solid playthrough. And everything you said, it literally sounds like it was made for me. There's no doubt that I will be making a video on that for sure. And actually, to flip the script on you, I put together, because I'm a huge fan of indie games, obviously. That's how I found your channel. I have like 4 or 5 of the indie games that I've either enjoyed recently or one that is just one of my favorites of all time that I'm sure you already know. One of them is pretty basic, but the others maybe not. And just to pick your thoughts on that, or just to describe it to people who game outside of mobile for my channel. And so, have you heard of One Step of Eden?
Yes, it's the
Step from Eden. Sorry.
yep, One Step from Eden. It's the Mega Man Battle Network style game.
Oh, yeah. This is like my version of Slice and Dice. Like, it has stolen all of my time. It's like become my favorite indie game of all time. The Mega Man Battle Network series, for those of you who may not know, it's kind of like Mega Man's answer to the Pokemon games, where they just wanted to make something different from that has that kind of collectible feeling of just adventuring and then battling and collecting new things. And so this one's just like kind of almost a Twitch-based, fast-paced battler, where you'll go through these roguelike scenarios of hitting shops, getting new abilities and attacks, surviving enemies and bosses, and just going as far as you can, all while unlocking new characters with their own sets of abilities and attacks and play styles. Such a solid game. That's quickly become one of my favorites of all time. Now, the Hotline Miami series. Have you played those?
Yeah, I love Hotline Miami. I can't say I'm the best at Hotline Miami, but
it is tough.
It doesn't matter. The vibe is enough for me.
Very well said. The vibe of that game, very hazy. Just a crazy, like, I've never felt so uncomfortable, but also like intrigued at the same time in an indie game in quite some time as Hotline Miami. That series, and like you said, it's a tough game. Like that, it's relatively short if you were able to plow through it, but each level is just so vast and so difficult that you're going to be replaying the same level over and over until completion. So that was another one of my favorites. Of course, I have to mention Hollow Knight, which I know you're a fan of, right?
I am, but I have not finished it, which I think will surprise a lot of people. But I've actually only very recently gotten full into it. I had it before, didn't quite have enough time to like really sink into it, and now I'm giving it the time it deserves. And now Silksong cannot come soon enough.
Oh yes, what a great sequel! And check out Jacob's channel for more news about that. I have very high hopes. I kind of feel nervous for the developer because
Yeah.
man, Hollow Knight is like the epitome of what makes a Metroidvania game great, in my opinion. And so definitely check that out if you like Metroidvanias. Now, Star Renegade. This is one I've played recently. Have you heard of that one?
I have. I have heard of Star Renegades. Beautiful art style.
Oh, some of the best pixel art I think I've seen in recent memory. I
Mhm.
could not. It blew me away. The amount of detail. It has this weird. I don't know. It conveys so much detail, like with the character models and stuff when they're chatting with each other. But then when it's zoomed out, it still has that detail, but like rough around the edges. I don't know how to really describe it. But that is a fantastic turn-based RPG slash kind of roguelike. It's a mixture of a lot of different genres, but it really works. And what I like about the turn-based combat is there's a layer of strategy in there where the timing is thrown into the mix. So it's not just you take your turn and then your enemy takes your turn and back and forth. Characters will have certain attacks that will take longer to fire off. And so there's kind of like a timeline at the top of the screen as you're playing. And you have to pay attention to that and where characters are falling in line. So maybe you'll want to use a quick attack to get a killing blow on an enemy that's about to do a huge attack on you. And so it's kind of a mixture of like a real-time strategy in a way and a turn-based game. So that was another one of my favorites. And of course, Dead Cells, which everyone knows about Dead Cells now. But as soon as that game got released on Steam, I played it and I was blown away. Great roguelike, Metroidvania-ish type game with tons of replayability. Some of the silkiest, smoothest action combat I've experienced in the genre thus far, to be honest. Have you played Dead Cells a lot or not really?
I have played Dead Cells. Now, I have not played it on mobile. I know I definitely need to, and I have not played a lot of the expansion stuff yet, which I definitely
Mm-hmm.
need to go and do because everyone who's played the expansions are like, play it. But since you bring that up, shout out to Foregone because I saw your video on that,
Yeah.
and I am very excited to jump into Foregone on mobile when I'm able to because that looks like another great game in that vein that I think I will really enjoy.
I'm glad you mentioned that. Yeah, because I still to this day, Foregone is overlooked as a Dead Cells clone, but it has such a distinct play style of its own. It's very harkens back to the pacing, like the combat pacing of the old Castlevania series, where it's kind of slow, more methodical. You have to kind of plan your character's placement. And I'm a sucker for loot systems. I don't know about you, but I love like the Diablo like loot system of constantly improving your gear and fleshing out those synergies for your weapons and your gear together to just make you a killing force. I love that game. I'm glad you mentioned that. Yeah. But a great game overall. And those were the suggestions that I came off that I just wanted to mention since it's kind of like an indie games and mobile games kind of amalgamation. But to close out this podcast, is there anything that you would like to shout out? Any of your socials or your YouTube channel, whatever. This is your time. Take it away.
Okay, so the first thing I would like to shout out is if you are watching or listening to this podcast right now, go to the channel that you're already on and hit the subscribe button. What are you doing? Do it.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
But the next thing that I want to shout out is my YouTube channel. So if you go to youtube.com/YourFriendJacob, all one word, you will find my channel. We are currently 411 strong, but it has grown really quickly in this month and last month. It has been
Explosive.
really,
Yeah.
and you said it yourself. I mean, the first person who said that this was going to happen was Mint City. So I have to give you all the
Thank
credit,
you.
all the credit for calling that out because you believed in the channel before I believed in the channel. So I really appreciate it. And you can also follow me on Twitter at twitter.com/YourFriendJacob, except for the O is a 0 because somebody took Your Friend Jacob and
You're
isn't
kidding
using
me.
it. They're not
Yeah.
using it. They haven't been on
Oh,
Twitter in
man.
like 8 years. And
What a bummer.
but if you just replace the O with a 0, you will find me. And from there, you can find things like Discord and stuff like that. But really, if you just go to youtube.com/YourFriendJacob, hit the subscribe button and maybe watch a video, that would be cool. And really,
Ye-
other than that, I can't ask for anything more because I already feel very blessed to be here, and it's been an amazing opportunity to be on this podcast. And like I said, if you're on this channel right now listening to this and you've made it this far and you haven't hit subscribe,
You're
not
crazy.
only not only do I want you to hit subscribe, I want you to use all of your accounts because I know you have multiple Gmails, okay? Sign into your other Gmail and then subscribe to Min City again, and then find your parents' account or your grandparents' account, all right? Make a new account, I don't care, and subscribe to Min City. Do it, and then go to this video and hit the thumbs up button.
Wow, that's dude. I don't even need to shout out anything. You did the job for me. But seriously, follow Jacob on Twitter. He's very dude. You have inspired me to be active on my platforms more, like my social platforms. He posts and retweets and comments on the most interesting stuff in the gaming space. It really has opened my eyes to a lot of cool stuff that I never would have saw without him posting about it. So if you've enjoyed him whatsoever, definitely check out his Twitter as well as his YouTube. YouTube obviously a priority, but the Twitter is what I've really been enjoying lately as well. It's like the perfect complement, and the stuff, like the conversations you're having with devs. You post about your videos too, so sometimes the algorithm will be weird and it won't put it in my sub box for some reason, even with my bell rung, and so I don't miss it because I caught it on your Twitter, which is interesting. So, yep, definitely go see that. And thank you again, Jacob. This has been a fantastic experience. This is our first time chatting, like actually chatting outside of just a text box. So it's been a pleasure, absolute pleasure. Best podcast episode, I can already tell. So I appreciate you being here.
Oh, I wholeheartedly agree. And as I said before, I can't remember if it was on the podcast or before, it has been a goal of mine to be on a podcast. And I'm so happy it was this one. And it is a surreal moment for me. I don't want to get too sappy here, but I went from not being able to speak to being on a podcast. Like, how awesome is that? It is so,
Yeah, and on an hour and a half long podcast, roughly.
yeah.
That's
And
impressive.
this is the longest I've ever talked in one sitting.
Wow.
And I have not passed out. So I feel on top of the world right now. It's amazing. I would love to be back at some point if you will have
Oh, of
me.
course. No, by the time we have you back, you're gonna be past 1,000. I'm calling it right now. Just watch the explosion. I was telling my wife right before this. So I used to listen to this musical artist named Jack Harlow when he had like under 1,000, like 3,000 listeners. And now I'm sure you've heard a song by him, or like he is like one of the biggest rappers of all time now. And so I told her, this guy I'm having on this podcast is going to be my Jack Harlow of the YouTube space. You're going to be huge. This is a record of it now. So now I can say I was the hipster. I knew him before it was cool, you know? So, yeah, cool.
Yeah, you are an OG. You've been one of the
The
biggest
OG.
supporters. You've been one of the biggest supporters of the channel. Like, let me tell you, everybody, Min City talks the talk and walks it because you've messaged me in DMs, you've commented, we've spoken. This is the first time speaking verbally, but we've messaged each other back and forth, and you've been a huge supporter of the channel. And I mean it when I say you believed in the channel before I did, and I thank you so much for believing in the channel. And I'm extremely grateful for the opportunity to be on the podcast. And if it does explode, I have you to thank for it. For sure.
Yeah. Oh, no, the credit is all yours. And I think that's a perfect way to end the podcast. Thank you again. And thank you, those of you who are listening. Like he said, if you've made it to this point, like the video, pop a subscription on both of our channels, and we will see you in future uploads. I hope you guys are staying safe and take it easy.